Moses is writing this down, writing the history, the origins, the beginnings of God's people. Okay, he's going to write Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. It's going to take God's people from the beginning of all things to their point in history. Okay, to their point. It's going to take them through lineage and ancestry. It's going to take them through the law. It's going to take them through through what we're going to read and all the way through the Exodus. Again, this is part of these first 5 books. Moses is doing this for God's people by the power of God in him. He was the only educated one in terms of we know that he was highly educated in the palace, and that up to this point it would have just been oral tradition. It would have just been God's people passing stories down from generation to generation to generation, which is fine because a lot of what's written is done in that sort of same oratory fashion, and yet we know by the power of the Holy Spirit and by the influence of God, Moses decides to make this a record, make this an account, a written account for God's people, for a slave nation that had just been freed and were going to God's promised land. That's the history and the context. Why does it matter? Origins and beginnings. Well, it matters because it gives us depth to an understanding. Okay? Depth to understanding is why origins matter. Matter of fact, I'm going to pick on her. I didn't know she was going to be in the service this week, but I'm going to pick on Whitney Higgins. She was in our office last week. Sorry, Whitney. She was in our office last week, and I just kind of heard some stuff, kind of in the hallway, and we have a lot of fun in our office and a lot of conversation. But I heard her. She was collecting every person's couple story. Right? She was basically like, how did you guys meet? How did you get together? When did that happen? And I love telling our origin story. Maybe we'll do that again at some point. But Tracy and I have to do it together because I don't get it right, apparently, it's just, we all know how that goes, But it's really interesting, right? So she's asking all these stories. Why? Is it because she doesn't know my name? Is it because she doesn't know me or Tracy? No, because understanding the origins, understanding the beginnings gives a rich and a depth to who I am and who I am today, right? So this is important, not just for God's people. And this is what I want to make sure you see. As we go through Genesis, we have to know primarily who it's written to and written for, and yet, just because Jesus said it and because Paul emphasized it, we are now grafted into, the body of God. We're grafted into the family of God, the chosen people of God, and so this becomes our origin story as well. Everybody with me?